of Exhibit A is what has been paid. Or is the new, what will go on.
Yeah, I have all the answers. Yep.
Michael is not going to be able to be here today, so he has here the contract for the state for the one bridge, and L&M Contractors was the apparent low bidder. So he has the contract if everything is ready and okay for you guys to sign. I'll lay that there too.
Does it have a number on it? That bid? What I wrote down.
Okay, we take a look at the minutes, I guess, get them out of the way. Don, under the nursing home. The majority of Mr. Siegel's nursing homes are in Wisconsin.
Here's what?
Most of
Wisconsin.
his nursing homes are in Wisconsin, instead of Colorado.
I thought that too.
I guess I would also, under that paragraph, I don't know that we're forming a nonprofit. I think we're forming a plan to continue operation of the nursing home. We're not doing a nonprofit.
Where are you?
I think that was the motion.
Was that the motion?
Yeah, I thought it was.
Yes, because you were meeting with the, that is true. We said that because you were meeting with the group that had already formed. The group that had approached us, which is Lincoln Manor Incorporated. Morning. Because before he went on vacation, we talked about you setting up a meeting with them.
Yeah, I did have that meeting, but the committee we established, I didn't think was to form a nonprofit. I thought it was to develop a plan to see where we proceed, how to proceed with this nursing home situation.
We could take that one sentence out.
I think that's what it says in the motion, to appoint Robert Siegel, Jennifer O'Hare, Steve Granzo, Kelly Larson, Doug Allman, Aljo Wallace, and Don Miller to a committee to start the process of forming, oh, I'm sorry, I see what you're saying, of forming a nonprofit.
I think we just take out,
Just take out that section.
start the process of forming a nonprofit for the nursing home.
No, I don't.
To develop a plan is the
Yeah,
committee's,
yeah.
I see what you're saying, it's in the motion.
It's not a nonprofit.
I
We're not
agree
setting
with
up
that,
a
yeah.
I
profit.
mean, if you just take that one part of that sentence out, it goes right on.
Right, just go to
say,
develop a
start
plan,
process
skip
for the-
straight to that.
Okay, so from word two all the way to eight.
No, to develop.
Are they two?
To develop, just skip down from committee to develop.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I.
Yes, okay. I move to approve the minutes from August 20th, 2018 as corrected.
Do I have a second?
Say,
Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I was approached by the fire department. They're wanting to put a enclosed carport north of the fire station, that lot for storage. They're gonna pay for it all themselves. That parking area over there. They're one of
across the
places-
alley.
What's
You mean
that?
to-
Yeah,
is that
across the
north?
alley. I told them I didn't have a problem with it as long as they were paying for it. They sure.
Who owns that lot?
We do.
We own it. They'll own the building.
What's that?
They'll own the building
Yeah.
and the insurance for it.
It's, as I understand it, it's just an enclosed carport. I told them I would see if anybody had an objection to it. They have stuff stacked all over in there.
Speaking
Trucks
of
have
that,
gotten bigger.
did we ever figure out, was our bid accepted for buying that lot to the, was it the north of the recycling?
No.
To the south.
Or to the south? Oh, they sold it? So what happens? I thought that we already had things on that property line, or
We do.
has there been any discussion, or did anyone say? Okay. They had sold it before we gave them our price?
Yeah.
Well, yes, they sold it, when he called me on that Monday, he sold it with.
Okay.
So,
What is this check for that you gave us a copy of?
That's my place always.
Oh. Laugh it up.
Oh, no, I take that back. The wife came in and paid the Delinquent solid waste. That was him dumping out of the landfill.
Oh.
Landfill
They're
till-
technically supposed to be
CD.
dumping as they deliver, yes, and not charging, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They
Okay,
should be.
Since we have 5 minutes, can you re-explain to me, and I'm sorry, I know I've asked you this before, do we bill the city and they individually bill each residence on their utility bill, whether it's water or sewer or whatever? Or
what
how do we collect that?
Okay, what they do is they bill every resident that has that
A water service
has a
or whatever their
service, yes.
utility is?
And then, at the end of the month, they tell us the count as to how many they have, and then we verify and make sure that the check that comes in would send.
So the city writes you a check every month? 3 cities?
4 cities.
Just the 4th?
Garner, Beverly, Silver, and Lincoln.
Oh, Lincoln, I was thinking. Okay.
So, yes, all 4 cities, and so whatever they bill out is what.
And does your office handle all that? What's our fee on the billing
We charge a 25-cent administrative fee
for each separate bill?
for each household. So, yes. And then we charge out the $72 per year.
That's us separately, we do, but,
No, that is billed in the city bill as well. So when your city bill comes out, you're paying for,
a portion of
The
it is your
collection.
monthly pickup and a portion of it is your yearly fee.
disposal.
And we're charging 25 cents on the whole thing per bill?
25 cents for the household.
Uh-huh. Okay. We have 2 bills here from Lincoln Park Manor. An annual fire sprinkler inspection and backflow testing for $350 from Pryor Automatic Fire Sprinkler. And, let's see, Lincoln Building Supply, $42.99 for an entry lock.
Did you see that bid on the bridge?
No. So the bid wrote from L&M Contractors Incorporated. They're out of Great Bend, Kansas. What is the bridge number?
It's 87.
This is 87. They have it
Goldenrod.
located as 1.3 miles north and 2.0 miles east of Vesper on road over Spillman Creek. 87 is the number, yeah, it's there. 399,566. A combination bid of items and construction engineering less $428,321 in federal funds will require county matching funds in the amount of $88,000. And the county remittance should be made on or before October 11th of this year. So his note says that it was $130,000 lower than the estimated bid.
Less.
You see that? That's good.
Last, I believe.
Lower, yeah. Can we approve the contract without sending payment? Or does it?
Yeah, you will approve the contract first, and then we'll send the payment.
Okay.
I
So,
think they bill us.
okay.
October.
I move to approve the bid from contractor L&M out of Great Bend
Have a
for
motion-
Bridge OS 87, sorry.
Have a motion to approve contract L&M contractors for OS 87. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Jeremy, you want to talk about gravel prices I see here?
Yeah, I didn't know if you were gonna up them.
We talked about that last year. We haven't discussed it with Michael yet, but we sure can.
I was just,
I guess my feeling is that I think we need to do it on the anniversary dates of this contract since they're all in one set. And I think that's March 1st.
Or March 31st or 1st?
I think that would be the appropriate time, because some of those contracts are due, and so we don't need to be issuing contract in January and turn around and issue another one in March, is my feeling. But,
Yeah.
but,
I just knew it was discussed that
yeah,
it'd be
yeah.
for the 2019.
But I guess that's my feeling. And usually gravel clean doesn't start much before March 1st anyway, so I just think that it'd be easier for us to do contracts and set the price once, and then we're done with it for a year at a time.
I just knew you were doing the budget, so.
Yeah.
We kind of alluded last year to committing to, we didn't commit, but we kind of
We seem to
insinuated that we would.
Yeah.
be doing better in the road department because we have cut down on the repair expenses. We purchased some better equipment, and we're not having these enormous repair bills coming through the word several years ago. So this freed up a little bit more money to them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all I was wondering. Just-
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll sure discuss it, Jeremy, and
Thank you.
we'll get with you, let you know.
I think you might tell them what the bids were.
Jeremy,
Yeah, we did have,
did you have a price in mind?
Just, we discussed that.
Thank you.
we did have 5 bids on the bridges. The low was $399,000. King Construction was $468,000, I'm sorry. Reese was $604,000. Bridges Inc. was $540,000. And AMN Co. and Sons was $643,000. So there was quite a bit of difference in the bids.
I'm sorry, Alexis, I got on your line, I think.
No, that's all right.
Don, did you have something you wanted to discuss?
Just wanted to figure out who you would like to interview for the producer's officer.
Do we need to go into exec to discuss that?
Yes, probably, and I forgot to bring the applications, so I think that.
You forgot what?
I forgot to grab the applications, so.
I have.
I have the
You don't
list.
have new ones, do you?
No,
Okay.
no notice.
I would entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss the applications.
How much time we need, Don?
It does not matter, however.
Let's go 15, start with Philip.
I'd move to in 15 minutes
That's fine. That should be plenty of time.
to discuss applications for human resources to protect the confidentiality of those employment.
Do I have a second? I will second. Is there any further discussion?
Just to be clear, we're going to choose out of the, did we receive 7 or 8? I think. 8. Out of the 8, we will choose who is going to be interviewed.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
And then they would get benefits.
On top of that.
What
I think
would
that's
you think?
reasonable,
Like next Tuesday after the
because
meeting?
that leaves room for,
What now?
What were you guys thinking?
what's Tuesday?
Oh, Tuesdays.
Because Monday is Labor Day.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
I
if
think-
that would work, I guess. I don't.
But are they both
They're
leaving?
both from out of town.
And are they both leaving jobs? Maybe not this.
I'm not sure. I can call and ask, and you guys,
We're
you
gonna-
give me days and I will,
Are we coming in Friday for end of the month?
yes.
Do you think that's too short a notice, or?
Well, it might not be for Dawn, if that person's kinda anxious.
Sure.
So why don't I just give them Friday, Tuesday, and the following Monday
That'd be fine.
as potential
No, we can't
dates?
do it the following Monday.
Okay,
That's when we're gonna work on the nursing home.
The
Oh,
10th.
okay.
So.
Why don't you just
Friday-
do it next week sometime? I
Okay.
guess we just have to come
We want to
in.
give them a later time, is what I'm saying, so that it gives them travel
Yeah.
time, and if they have to
Yeah.
leave, like a late afternoon, like 4 p.m. or something like that.
Okay. Okay, well, let me just see what they have available, and if you guys are,
I think we're pretty open.
Sure.
okay.
I am anyway. I'll make it work for them.
Do you want a motion with names in it? How do you want to do that?
I don't.
I don't think
I don't
we
think
need
Okay.
to.
We've selected 2 applicants to interview.
Yeah, finding this information.
Well, be a little early, but you wanna go ahead with Bob?
If they're ready.
Either that or sit there and look at each other for a half an hour.
That's okay. I've been ready. Good morning.
Good morning.
Bob.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for taking the time to meet with me today. I know that you're all familiar with the ongoing issue of the Lincoln County of Aging, and I'm optimistic that the board, we're working on making some forward-thinking decisions this upcoming year. I'm concerned about the distribution on the funds to both the Lincoln Senior Center and the Silva Senior Center. I myself personally request that you think about dispersing the remaining funds directly to the Lincoln Senior Center and the Silva Senior Center as soon as possible because of the ongoing delays that we've had. This will allow the Lincoln County on Aging to continue to spend down the reserve that is currently over $60,000. I've heard the audit is complete, and I know it is. I don't know if you've received it yet.
No, we have not.
Okay. The LCCOA remaining disbursement for 2018 was $28,500. The Lincoln Senior Center budget was $31,500, which would leave a balance of $16,500. And Lincoln's or Silva Senior Center still has a balance of $12,000 coming for this year. So I would really hope and pray that you guys would make the decision to disperse those monies directly to both the centers. And that's what I have for you this morning.
Well, my feeling was that once we saw an audit, we would think about dispersing the funds, but until we see an audit, I think we probably need to, seems to be the problem. I think it is important that the senior center's dispersion be made, and I would hope it could be made as soon as we receive that audit. Until we receive that audit, I would not be in favor of dispersing any more money until I see what's actually going on with
Without
all
it
of
was.
us.
And I,
So, where is the audit? I mean, you said you heard that it's.
Liz Winkler has it, she picked it up for all three, and so I don't know why she hasn't brought it up to you.
Who is she
Probably.
on the
You got a
board?
meeting tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
I imagine she's probably gonna run it through you guys first, be my guess.
Yeah, I would say that.
Is she an
Yeah.
officer?
Pardon me?
Is she an officer on the board?
She's vice president.
Vice president?
I would say that they're gonna run it through the board.
That's what I assumed, that after I heard
It was there, you know,
there.
they called for the audit, so.
Okay. But like I said, we're still holding so much money in reserve on the LCCA that we need to get Sylvan and Lincoln paid, and I'm sure there's going to be a discrepancy someplace as far as dispersing the money. I'm praying that you guys disperse it directly and not give it to the LCCA.
So you really think that this commission would be wise to make 3 distributions from the tax collected each year, that we separate those and distribute that money individually to all 3?
Mr. Wallace, I've checked with Manhattan, I've checked with Gunther City, Mitchell County, Ottawa County, and they all disperse the funds directly to the agency which the money goes to. And it was LCCA's, I've only been there for 13 months, but my understanding was that the LCCA was supposed to help Sylvan and Lincoln when they needed extra funding. That's what their money was for. But the money that is there now is taking care of one senior, and we don't need that. We need to take care of all the seniors in Lincoln County, which is Sylvan, Barnard, Beverly. And that's what my concern is. We pay them directly the money. Let them handle their own funds. At the end of the year when they have an audit, they will take care of their own audit. And I know they keep good records over there because I've seen them. I've been there the last several months over Sylvan, and I've been over here at the Lincoln Senior Center, and they do an outstanding job. So I think you're right. If you would just make 3 distributions, it would make everything so much easier in the county, and we wouldn't have all these problems.
I think they would prefer not to do it too.
So I would appreciate you taking the time to listen to him.
You're still active on the board, correct? You're still a member?
As of right now. So let's see what happens tomorrow.
Okay.
I appreciate
Yeah, I
you
think,
coming to it.
I would assume that if they don't bring us the audit, we can require it to be delivered to us since we're funding them. But I would assume that once you guys have seen it, it will be given to us. It's been my intention, or my feeling all along, that once that audit is complete, it would be given to the commissioners to verify. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
I think it needs to be said that the commission should receive an official copy of the audit, not any sort of document produced in lieu of the actual audit. Not a report made internally, in other words.
I'm sure
We would not be receiving it if we got a report.
Right.
You have to have the original document if you're going to
Well,
receive
given
the
the
audit.
history of the situation, I think that just needs to be clarified.
Do you think that would be released, though? Do you think that the LCCA released that to you?
Sure they will.
I would assume.
Okay.
If they want
If they-
if they want any more money from us, they're going to.
Actually, that audit is public information
Correct.
because any of the county audit, when the official county audit for 17 comes in, those will be available in the clerk's office for everyone to see if they want to see what the audit is. The commissioners receive a copy, a personal copy, and I think, and Dawn gets her personal copy, but there are copies available in the clerk's office for the public. That is public information. So with the LCCOA, or whatever that is, organization, their audit will have to be public information. There should be more than one copy. I don't know whether there is or not, but if there isn't, they can require the accounting firm to produce more copies of that.
Yeah, we receive an actual binder when we get ours here.
That's what I understand, that you would have the actual audit, you'd receive the original audit, and then we would have a copy. Is that right?
The original audit will come in several copies.
Okay.
It will be
Should.
bound and it will be signed. Yeah.
Really should be enough for everyone
Yeah.
if they.
That's true.
Yeah, look, something like that.
Okay. Okay.
I assume.
Yes.
It should. All the other ones do, so.
I don't have ours to show you. I thought I did, but they give us one in an actual binder, and so that's how we receive it from the auditing firm. So it should come like this, and you're right, Dawn, it should be enough for everyone on the board. So.
I can tell you that all the board members, LCCA board members that I've talked to would prefer not to distribute the funds. They would prefer that we did it. So,
That's what we're praying for, Jerry, that you guys take care of it. So we'll stop this bickering, complaining among both areas.
When you gave us this breakdown of your suggestion for the distribution of 28,500 and 16,500 makes up the difference of what has not been paid to the budget approved for the Lincoln Senior Center of 31,500, correct? Because you said they received 15,000,
It's,
so another 16,500 would make it 31,500.
Right, right.
Okay, and then, just out of curiosity, because I don't remember, I have it somewhere in here, but the 12,000 that was remainder, was that the whole budget that was, when we were approached by the LCCA, they gave us all three budgets for this.
That's the last 2 years or so, out of the $12,000. That's,
So when is the last time Sylvan received any distribution?
2016.
2016 is the last time they received
No.
anything?
No. They received money in 2017, because I made the motion to pay them $2,600, they got it. So,
2,600,
those,
okay.
the ones that payments that I brought in was 2017, that was the payments.
That was all broken down according to like different purchases made, like the tables and the, is that what you're talking about?
Well, and they were also given insurance money, they were given insurance money and utility money, and
right.
I think wasn't total around 10,000 or something.
But they weren't, what I'm getting at is the split that you have is more about paying out the budget requests,
Yes.
because the budget has continually been approved for Lincoln, and you're saying this amount would have finished paying off the budget approval that was done for
So,
Sylvan, the other senior
see,
center.
the LCCA was holding so much money out of both, from the LCA and the Sylvan Senior Center. And they, I don't know why they even touch it. We have no responsibility of their money, really. So, my own personal feeling, that's my own personal feeling. Sylvan Senior Center should get their money out of their budget, out of their mill levy money. Lincoln Senior Center should get their money out of the mill levy money. And the LCA, whatever their budget was, they'll get that. What they're worried about right now is if there'll be enough money to pay the coordinator. That's what it is. So we need to get past that. It's been like that for 13 years. So we get past that and pay the people the money that they need, that they have in their budget and their mill levy, because that's what the seniors have been paying that money all these years. You know, and Sylvan Senior Center, I don't know how many seniors are over there. I haven't made that, but we go over there and there's 30 to 60 people all the time. So they've got some seniors over there that are concerned about what's going to happen.
If you remember right, Bob, they submitted a letter that they would not accept any money from the LCCA. So the fact that they haven't got any money
I got that.
has to do with that letter that they said they would not
So
accept
then,
any funds.
thinking about
So-
next year then, the disbursement, I think what we need to do is look at the three different budgets and decide what percentage of each budget we are going to fulfill, because we did reduce the line item. 2 mills in the year 2019 is equal to 117,000, I believe. I'm rounding it off there.
Reduced it a half a
It
million.
was less than that.
Well, we approved
75,000.
75,000.
Right.
So what I'm saying is for next year's dispersal, what we need to do is look at those three budgets and decide on what percentage of that budget we are going to supply.
Yes.
They probably won't any of them give.
No, we can't afford to do 100% of all three of them, is what I'm saying.
I
So,
understand that.
which they'll have to find some alternate, fund. I know Sylvan's done plenty of fundraising, so
That's true.
they'll have to find some alternate
Well, I
means
don't
of
think
income.
I don't think it's the county's responsibility to fund everything.
Well, that's what
Correct.
it's not.
You
I
know,
agree.
I think they all have some reserves sitting there, so I just don't think it's up to the taxpayers to provide all the funding.
Agreed. Well, I'm glad you came in today, because we hadn't discussed that in a long time, and I had wondered myself about where the audit was after.
I want you to understand something, all three of you. I'm not concerned about the money, I'm concerned about the people. But they need the money to keep operating. And if one of the other places shuts down, they may be in trouble. And the seniors aren't having any place to go. That's my,
That brings me to another subject, and I don't know how much information you have on this off the top of your head, but what do we have a standard process for reclamation of back taxes as far as doing tax sales or things of that nature? Because there have been a lot of questions floating around about some of these buildings that are on the county tax claim, which would be delinquent taxes. And then, you know, how do we go about that? Because I think the last time we discussed this, there was going to be a sale. Do we have a tax sale then, since we discussed it?
No, we haven't.
So do we have a
The,
county policy or procedure, or, I mean, where I come from, it's every 3 years regardless, but I don't know how much jurisdiction do we have over that process?
Well, I think what it boils down to is being able to collect more than the cost of having the sale. The advertising expenses and stuff, and you know, you can put them on the list, and they're, 4 years behind, they can come in and pay a year and continue it.
And stay on, yeah.
So it's, you know, it sounds like a wonderful thing, but I can tell you there have been times since I've been in here that you didn't collect enough money to even pay the advertising expense. Because a lot of the lots are basically not worth anything because there's a building on them that has to be torn down, and you have the expense of that, so.
So, like today, we're having a delinquent solid waste hearing, and if I remember correctly, we've done this every year, right, Dawn?
Yeah, that's the only way I can add it to the tax roll is for you to have it.
Okay, so, who keeps track, who is keeping track? Is that the appraiser's office, or the treasurer, or who's keeping track of tax claim?
I think the treasurer's office. And then I think they provide it to the county attorney.
It's a little different process than the solid waste disposal.
And so I think the last we discussed, we had a tax sale maybe 7 years ago. Does that sound, maybe 8 years now, if we talked about it last year? Does that sound familiar?
I would say somewhere.
7 or 8
in there.
years
Yeah,
ago?
that's about right.
By bidding?
They're sold at public auction.
Mm-hmm. And are you allowed to refuse if it doesn't meet the minimum?
Yes, it do.
It's an extensive process to do it. It takes a lot of advertising, and
I think they have to hire an abstractor
Yeah,
to
it's a-
title research. I'm not 100% sure. Make sure that we do so.
that's why the costs don't
See,
usually,
if
we
it's-
usually don't recoup the costs out
If
of
it's
the
been
tax.
8 years, you're only gonna, at the most, recoup half of that.
Yeah. And, you don't, the person that pays $500 for the lot doesn't have to pick up the back taxes, so.
I'm not
You're
sure
not
if we have-
requiring purchase with payment on the back taxes? That's not how it's done where I come from. You're paying the bill.
I don't think so. I think once I don't really know the process, but I think once the bid is given and they say sold, and then we
That's what
take
you
the
get.
tax and we collect it based on each year that it's delinquent until you run out of money, and we have to do an abatement for everything.
Wait, explain that again? When someone bids,
So let's say you have a parcel that has $1,000 and it sells for $50. We will take the $50 and we will credit it to, I
The
think,
back tax roll.
back taxes until it gets paid. And let's say it only pays 2 years worth, then everything else is abated off. So I have
It's
to
a
do
right.
an abatement for every single year.
right, but I guess my feeling is if we're waiting almost a decade to do this, you know, we're potentially not collecting in the future what some new owner may pay. So we have to weigh the difference in the cost to turn over those properties versus continuing to relinquish the collection. I mean, basically what we're saying is if you don't pay your taxes in Lincoln County, just keep not paying them, because we can't afford to sell your property out from under you, which that's a whole nother discussion on a different level, you know, I don't want to get into, but just from the county's perspective, we have to weigh those options. I mean, if that's not a regular practice here, I think it's kind of becoming an issue where I haven't seen the tax claim list. I don't know. Is that something that anyone's looked at lately?
I don't see it, so that would be the treasurer's office.
Yeah. I guess I'm just trying to say we have people that are regularly paying, and it's not fair for them to have to regularly pay their taxes to foot this bill of what we're going to probably pass today, which is our budget for the next year, while other people who don't pay just continue paying for years and years, not paying, for years and years and years, and then we just say, well, we'll have to write it off because we can't afford to not collect, or we can't afford to go through the process of attempting to collect any of it. I mean, 1 is greater than 0.
Wasn't that why you have a sheriff's sale?
Well, a sheriff's sale is actually for mortgages,
Yeah.
people that default on their mortgage, but it's the same concept, you
It
know.
doesn't involve us. And if you
It's called a tax.
if you
tax
watch
claim
on a sheriff's sale, it's advertised multiple times before they ever sell it.
Well, and I know you have to do an actual printout. Our county would have to provide a physical printout of all the properties that would be on the list for the tax claim sale. That way it's available to the public, and if you were a potential buyer, you could browse through what would be auctioned.
Wasn't that put in the Lincoln County paper here about 3 weeks ago?
That's the delinquent list.
Yeah, the
Current.
For the current year, yes, for the current year, but there are numerous ones that are go
What is
several
our
years
state
back.
statute
yes.
for years, though? What is our jurisdiction over that process? Is it like, you said 3 years?
I think it's
Is-
4 years, isn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah, we can't do anything, because our solid waste hearing is set for 9:30, correct? If she has time, that'd be great.
Sorry, I'm not, no.
I just can see that, you know, if someone's property was extremely valuable and they didn't pay their property taxes, it would behoove us to go ahead and have a sale on that particular person because of the value. So in essence, there's a discrimination there if you're just not selling lesser value properties on a tax sale because it actually costs the county money versus forcing those who have more valuable property to continue paying their taxes because the threat is there that we will have that tax sale because it's more likely that we would collect a greater percentage of our money on a large sale where someone would be interested in bidding. Does that make sense? Yeah.
But you also have to remember that person can come in and pay 1 year.
Great, then we collect the money, and I'm not saying that
And you
that,
can go through the whole process again the next year.
Why is
Spend the
that?
money and,
That's where you're saying it. They're 4 years in delinquency. They come in and pay 1 year. You're still delinquent 3 years, but they get to keep their property.
yes, because there's a state statute, and I haven't read it, so I can't tell you what it says,
So,
but
so
Barney.
it's gonna
Hi.
be,
thank you for coming down. Sure.
when does delinquent
What was-
property
so it's
qualify
gonna be
for a tax
effective today.
sale? 4
Not
years?
pay taxes.
3 years
Pay for
on
it.
That's what I'm getting
farm
at.
ground or
That's
ground
what I'm getting at.
without
If you
a
get
home,
behind,
4
I'm just saying
years on a
That's
home.
not fair to the other residents in the area that's paying their tax.
and it is a greater cost if you wait because you have penalties and fees. So your taxes for that particular year that you're paying would be higher than if you just paid them on time. But I'm just getting at the long-term aspect
Right.
of leaving it go 7 to 10 years. We were talking about tax claim. And so do you, obviously you would keep a whole list of the tax claim roll, correct?
In September, after the taxes have gone to redemption, I print out a list for the county attorney. I don't necessarily keep it, but I can print it at any time.
Okay, great.
She said it was 3 years on farm ground or unimproved property. If there's a house on it, it's 4 years.
That's interesting. Is that state statute?
And up until a certain time in the process, they can come in and pay 1 year, correct?
Yeah,
To stay
to take
current
it off.
in delinquency.
To take
right,
it off the
off
tax sale, yeah.
Tax sale. So,
Unless it goes to the date, and then it all has to be paid
To the day of the
to
sale.
the day of the sale.
on that particular day, if it's not paid on that day in full, then it continues on to the, yeah, gotcha. And do you happen to know the last year we did a tax sale?
Oh, goodness. Before my time,
Oh, you haven't done one?
I've never done one.
And how long have you been here?
I'm in my second term, so
Okay, I thought we said maybe
5
7 or 8
or
years,
6
so
years.
at least not, okay. So do you have any idea how many properties or what kind of dollar figure you turned in last September?
I don't off the top of my head. I could go try to figure that out for you.
I'll ask you, I'll come up and get a list.
We'll
If
get
you
one.
want me to
We'll get
print the
one here in a
list.
month, so.
It will be as of last year.
Right.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, I mean, there have been some questions about some building structures, houses or whatever, where if they're so far behind, you know, what is that process and what authority does the county have to do anything about that? We were, you know, they were saying we can't necessarily cover the cost of performing the tax sale.
Because it is a great cost, and there has to be research done to find people that maybe aren't even around here anymore. It has to be published in the newspaper.
Or unclaimed debts.
Certified mail has to be sent out, and I don't know exactly what the rules are on that, but it is a great cost. And then the court costs and all of that on top of.
So you think that's the reason why we haven't proceeded with any tax sales? Because we don't want to absorb the cost of putting it on?
We don't have enough dollars out to make it worthwhile.
I guess I'm just concerned and representing the concerns of those who do pay their taxes. You know, I mean, then what's the incentive there? So then everyone just doesn't pay their tax and we just sit and we as a county say, well, we'll never afford to reclaim. So no one pays.
Eventually, we will.
Right.
And
that's
we
kind of
get
my
to the
question.
dollar amount that would make it worthwhile.
But what we were discussing is that's an unknown number because maybe you can help us if this is not right, but we were just saying the bidding process, once you get that bid, it's the highest final bid. Whatever that dollar amount is gets applied to the back taxes and the rest of it is basically relinquished. So then we don't.
Abated. We don't.
So then you
we're
can't
out.
really determine a dollar amount because there's no way to predetermine that. And you don't have the right of refusal to refuse a bid. So don't pay the taxes on your land and come in and bid for $1 less than what you owe in taxes.
You can't bid on your own. You
You're
can't bid on
absolutely
your own.
right.
You can't have any family member bid on your land and then give it back to you. That's against the law.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'm just wondering how many other counties are not doing any tax sales.
The bigger counties do one yearly. Sedgwick County possibly does one twice a year, but the small counties don't.
Talking about a whole different dollar amount in the middle.
Oh yeah, they
Do
have
we-
just the certain lawyers to do that.
Well, do we have has anyone done the configuration on the numbers to talk about, you know,
Like I say, I run the report in the dollars every year.
but I mean,
after
who makes that determination?
that's
The county attorney?
attorney.
Okay, well then I can ask her that. What is the penalty percentage?
I think it's 10% this year, and then there's $16 publication fee.
That you pay when you come in to pay your delinquent taxes? You pay
Per
the
parcel.
the
Per
publication fee, but 10% penalty fee until the next year's tax bill comes out.
It just
Does it
keeps
increase
accruing.
or,
The state sets those every year.
so each year it could be different?
Could be.
Do you think that we hold any liability on structures that may have gone neglected and unpaid in taxes that pose a potential hazard to any particular community? I mean, I'm just thinking.
That would be kind of a legal question, not a me question.
Well, if you haven't done any tax sales, you wouldn't. Yeah.
I would say if it was in the city limits, they have any legal liability on
The
The
city.
city does.
it. I would say so. They have a building code.
Does the city of Lincoln have, what do I want to call it? I guess a code enforcement?
All cities have to have adopted the universal building code, or they don't get any federal funding, so. They
Do
may
they
not
have the
enforce
code?
it, they don't have to enforce it, but they
Right.
have to adopt it.
Does Lincoln have an enforcement? Do they hire a code inspector?
They've been doing some abatements on properties, tearing them down and forcing people to tear them down. But as far as, I'm not sure what they're doing. I think they do have a,
I know I had put an addition on my house and I didn't have to have any codes or inspections or anything
no,
like
but
that.
as far as nuisance properties I'm talking about.
Yeah, they can probably curtail it to their.
Yeah.
Okay. I will come and get that list for you, or from you, if you don't mind.
Don't mind.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we have some time in recess for a little while.
Sure, I don't.
9:30, is that what it says? Yeah.
Yeah. We'll recess till 9:30, I guess.
Is this the updated one or the
Yes,
old one?
that's the updated.
Right here.
We'll call the meeting back to order. Next order of business will be the delinquent solid waste.
So we have a list of dollar amounts owed. Beverly United Methodist Church. Why is that in red?
Because they still owe us,
They made a
paid us,
payment, but,
they
okay,
still
$13.
owe
Thir-
fees.
Okay, $13.21. Country Soul, $43.88. The ones with nothing, does that mean they're paid? Like, see this one? Daryl Otting,
He's on there, but there's no amount.
there's no dollar amount.
Oh,
The names are
that's
still-
because he's the owner, so that's who the property will go on. So the
Oh.
delinquent business gets assessed to the property owner.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay. Heaver Auto and Ag, $94.24. Nancy's Fancy, $76.63. Churn Brothers Garage, $80.99. Kenton Ford, $47.23. Tony Howard, $25.51.
Are any of those people in attendance?
I have a question before we proceed. Is this what has gone unpaid to the city or to,
That is unpaid.
CD.
So the city's only collects on residential properties, the county bills, businesses.
are these all businesses?
Some of them would be businesses, and then others of them are CD material that they've deposited out in the landfill.
So if it's an individual, it's CD material. If it's a business, it's an unpaid bill to the county. Okay.
Yep.
I do have a couple comments about that. if you have dumped at the landfill and haven't paid your bill, I think it needs to be paid. But my concern is, just from a personal experience, I received an increase in my county bill for the landfill fee that is the yearly fee, which is what, $72 at the base?
That's the base.
Okay. So when I called and inquired as to why the amount went up, they said because the average weight that was being disposed of at the dumpster had increased. So I asked for my weights, and there's no record. So I'm a little bit concerned about increasing people's amounts based on a hypothetical number that doesn't exist. And I've had this concern brought to me, and then I experienced it personally. So I'm just wondering, what is our protocol? I mean, are we going to weigh things and have some actual statistical numbers, or are we just going to pick and choose increases unbeknownst to anyone's policy or procedure?
I think if you ask to have it weighed, they'll weigh it.
Well, I actually spoke with the owner of the business who picks up the trash, and he just said he could tell with his eyes how much weight was in there. So that's how the increase was assessed. So I opted to just not have the service anymore, which now I still have to pay the base fee. That's a whole nother discussion, but I just like to focus on the increase discussion and how we are assessing that. Because if the county is going to handle the books for the business to do this, you know, it needs to have some kind of validity and verification. I mean, we have a scale there. You know, I don't know if he has a scale in his truck, but we have a scale at the landfill.
They would have to weigh empty, come over and pick up your trash alone, and then drive all the way back to the landfill to weigh it.
Or if he has a scale in his truck, he could just do the math. I don't know that he does. I'm just saying. Right. Or if there's an actual concern about someone's weight being greater than whatever the pound, 200 pounds or something is like an average that they use for the base fee, then that needs to have some kind of, I'm just saying we can't continue to charge based on someone's assumption. It's just very selective. Yeah. Or there is one, for all I know. I really don't know. I didn't ask. I just asked how they knew it had gone up, and he said visually. You know, you can put 16 bags of stuffed animals or paper in your dumpster. It doesn't mean it weighs anymore. But I'm just sharing my personal experience, and other people have told me the same thing. They have opted out of the service that they're already paying into when the county does the billing and gotten an external service, but we're still charging them. Now, along with that does come the ability to dump at the transfer station, correct? But then these separate bills are the CD pay. And is that a yearly contract, or did we sign multiple years with that? I can't remember. Yeah. Yeah, that's also a concern. You know, we're giving a 5-year contract to a business that doesn't pay us by the weight. But then when we do our transfer to Salina, how are we paying out? By weight? So we're paying out by weight, but we're not receiving income by weight. We're just receiving a flat fee per residence. I just have some concerns about that process. So.
If there's no further discussion, I'd entertain a motion to assess the delinquent fees to the tax rolls.
I would move.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I will bring a resolution to
You need each one of these signs and list? If you have a sheet?
Just
No,
a
I'll do
resolution.
a resolution for you.
Okay.
Next week.
Are you ready, Carol? Okay.
I know the two commissioners here on my left, but I have not met Alexa. I'm Carol Delatorre. I grew up in Lincoln County. My mom and dad farmed for 65 years south of Lincoln. And when my father retired, he spent his last 3 years at Delatorre Manor. And my mother currently lives there. She's lived there since 22. So as you can see, I have a very vested interest in Lincoln Park Manor and in its continuing. I left a message, they called Outdoor Wallace, left a message on his phone that I, just needed an update on where we were. I was moving forward with Lincoln Park Manor. And so he kindly called me back Monday after the commission meeting and informed me that you had all appointed a working committee that was going, and Aljo's on it, and Kelly Larson, and I'm not sure if there's two people, I don't think.
County attorney.
Okay, county attorney. And that you were going to gather the facts and figures and look at what needs to be done to move off of dead center and vote to do something. And so my question to you, after a year and a half, and after all of the studies and the reports, and the people at Lincoln are supportive. I mean, I attended some of the town hall meetings, and they were packed. And people, they were supporting Lincoln Park Manor. They didn't want it to close. They felt like after past history, the citizens of Lincoln County stepped up. They built the facility. They added on the chapel. They recently Lincoln Park Manor, the old wing was updated. So the community is behind it. They want that there. Now we have a working committee, a new committee that's going to meet in September. Okay, and they're experts. What is it? What do you want from that committee that you haven't heard before? What is going to be the magic bullet that they're going to come up with? The phrase, the idea, the word. What have you charged them? What do you want to hear from them? Because you've had all the information. What new information are they going to discover? And you're going to say, aha, that's it. We're going to vote. That's my question to each one of you.
I think that we thought we had a solution a year and a half ago that didn't work. And I think it's our intent the committee is going to connect the dots as to the steps that we need to go through to take over the facility. We can all sit around and talk. We had a self-appointed not-for-profit group that was trying to come up with something, but they weren't connecting the dots. Their connective of the dot was for us to pay John Grace $450,000 and take it over. That was their connecting the dot. Well, there's a process as far as licensing, setting up the financials, doing a not-for-profit board. Their idea was great, and I agreed with it 100%, except for the self-appointed board that had no money and no ability to get money other than us. So I think our intent is to form a board similar to the Lincoln County Hospital Board and proceed from there. But we need the expertise of those people on that committee to connect the dots to get us to that place.
And what are the dots?
funding, licensing. I think the licensing and the funding and the financing is going to be the biggest things. We've had one of the persons that represents Dane Hansen that has gone through the books and looked at them, but we have a long-time nursing home operator who has offered to help us connect those dots.
And that is,
Bob Siebel. He owns multiple nursing homes in Wisconsin and different places. He has a tie to the community, and he's offered to help us for free, basically, to get us through that process. I don't have the expertise to do it. Mr. Wallace and Alexis, I don't think, has the expertise to put this thing together. That's why we formed the committee that we formed. The not-for-profit board was a great bunch of people, but they didn't have the expertise to accomplish it. Their idea was good, but they were concerned about the facility, but they didn't have the abilities to connect all those dots. It just takes expertise in certain areas of the process, and that's why we went the direction with the committee, in my opinion.
Algebra, do you agree, or is there a magic number, figure, word that you're looking for?
No, I don't think so. I think it's one thing that we have to establish some way to stabilize the situation. We cannot continue to lease the facility out and then run into problems, and then we're back to leasing it out again. I think we need to have some better controls over that, and I think there are ways that we can do that. Within the last week, some other ideas or ways have surfaced, and I think that it's probably an area that's going to be looked at, discovered. Personally, I think that nursing home ought to be able to be about self-sustaining. But we're not at that point right now. But I think by using the resources that we have in this county, sharing resources with the hospital, that we can make this to pretty much be self-sustaining. We have certainly talked about some ideas of using services of that hospital that could benefit both places. And I think when I met with the committee, the nonprofit, before we set up the working committee, that number one is that we must provide the best health care we can in this county. Those residents deserve the best health care we can, and that has to be our top priority. The other one is we have to maximize the health care dollars in this community as much as possible. We have got to use our pharmacy, we've got to use our hospital, we've got to use our nursing home together along with the health department to capture as many of those income dollars from insurance, from private pay that we can to meet the expenses. Certainly, one of my philosophies is that we do not want it to be a burden to the taxpayers of this county. And right now, it appears it's going to be. And so if we can get that thing organized so that, and there are some nursing homes out there that have the concept that we're looking at, that seem to be able to do that with few less, well, there's going to cost, I won't say it won't take any tax dollars, but I don't think it'll take a hit every month. That there will be times we have to step in and pump some money into it. It's just like any operation in this United States. There isn't a company or a working group that does not have federal money pumped into it every once in a while to keep it sustained. There is none. Every enterprise at one time or another has had to seek federal help or taxpayer money, and we're no different.
I would say save the very last comment there. I agree with everything that they've put forth to you. And thank you for coming in and asking the tough questions, because I think a lot of roundabout discussion has taken place, but I do appreciate you coming and being very direct. It's been a learning experience for me, and I can't say that I have any knowledge about the prior changeover in ownership, just this most recent changeover. And so with the last two owners, what I have done in the process is a little bit of my own research, and one of the first things I said last year, before there was a sale, is that Lincoln County is one of the only, if not the only county that rents to a for-profit corporation. And the reason, can you think of another one?
I can't off the top of my head, but there are some here.
Well, if you can't think of another one, then I'm going to go with my statement. But the point is, what I brought to the table last year was the other counties that I've researched, especially ones in a similar size and vicinity to us, they either rent to a nonprofit organization, and that's their business, running nursing homes. And the problem there is an organization like Good Sam's is not necessarily interested in this size of a facility, so that is a stumbling block. The other option, which I also talked about last year, was a county-appointed board, and I think that's the direction in which we're headed. The reason for this is basically to ensure the transparency. If there's going to be tax money going into a business, no matter what the business's purpose is, there has to be some sort of transparency. And I think a lot of the fog that was created over the last several years was due to privacy, and every business owner is entitled to their own privacy. But when you start asking for public funds to fund your private enterprise and your books are private, there's a big disconnect there, and that's what we've experienced. So when Aljo says that he sees that it could potentially be self-sufficient, that may be true to an extent, maybe with some certain subsidies. We keep absorbing the tax, the property tax, we keep absorbing maybe the building insurance, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know the details there. And I think maybe that's some of what the committee can help to formulate. I do think the committee is a good idea. We need some brainstorming. We didn't have brainstorming last year other than someone coming in and pitching us proposals. And I don't know how much you followed along with some of the developments there, but basically, you know, the county, in my opinion, has done its part to help subsidize. We've picked up the tab on several things that were not our responsibility. And if you don't expect a business owner to produce results when you are their landlord or you are helping fund their operation, then you get stuck with the tab, and that's happened a lot. So I think that's the primary concern from the county perspective. Now, all of the talk about closing, I'm not sure where that comes from. It seems like people just start talking about the nursing home closing as if that's the alternative to the county fully funding whatever proposition is laid on the table. You know, I'm still confused about that. I don't know where that comes from. The only person that can make the decision to close their own business is the business owner themselves. So if we don't have a business owner sitting here saying that they are closing their business, then that shouldn't even really be part of the discussion. I am concerned about that. It keeps coming up, and it's very, it's a red herring. So, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I guess I'm in favor of continuing the progress with the committee, and I'll use the phrase that Terry said, connecting the dots. There are some steps that need to be followed because we have to have, basically the structure will be two entities. You're going to have one that is a nonprofit that is able to receive funding, and that will have to be structured in a way that, you know, to get your nonprofit set up, you have to have so many donors and an X amount of initial money, and then you have to file with the IRS and get your 501c3 and da-da-da. That's a relatively short process. The second entity will be the actual administrative entity, and that's where we're looking at appointing a board which will make decisions as far as paying bills, hiring and firing, especially overseeing the administrator, and that's where they compared it to the hospital board. You know, we appoint the board has their meetings, they hire the administrator, and then the administrator takes on the responsibility of the day-to-day duties. Now, I'm not sure what the credentials and licensing is for the hospital, but right now, the knowledge that I have about the nursing home is you have to have a facility license. That is what is potentially for sale. Okay? The last proposition that came to us was not the sale of the license, it was the sale of debt. I don't know what you do for a living. What do you do for a living? Or did you?
I'm retired, I work for social rehabilitation services in Topeka.
Okay. So, basically, just for lack of any better explanation, the most lay thing I can explain is if I wanted to sell you something that I said is actually owned by someone else and they want money for it, and I'm not making any money with this product that I have, you wouldn't really pay me anything for it because it's not worth anything. And if you were a big-time investor that wanted to have write-offs, you might buy up that debt because it looks good on your books. You wouldn't necessarily buy it to make money from it. So the proposal that came to the table was for us to buy out someone's debt. And I think we all agreed unanimously that that was not a good place, to put ourselves in as the county. Now, when we talk about purchasing the license, that's a different story because you can utilize that license to run the business. You can get a new license. That's a lengthy process. From everyone that I've spoken with and some of the schools that do the credentialing and things like that, you're talking about 3 separate licenses. But the one for the facility is potentially transferable. And I think the committee needs to find out, can you transfer it from a for-profit corporation to a nonprofit entity? Or actually, it would actually probably, I think both entities have to become nonprofits because the board itself would have their executive members' names on the license, the way that I understand it. So if we were the board, it would say the facility, the facility license for KDADS belongs to Terry Finch, Aljo Wallace, and Alexis Wood, and that would be the license that we use with the state to then produce the numbers that you have to produce in order to operate. Okay. But I believe that the funding has to be channeled through the nonprofit corporation, for lack of a better term there, the nonprofit entity. So there's a dual-sided thing to this, and I would say my primary concern is the administrative board needs to start looking into the process of how they're going to hire and facilitate the administration, because now that brings us to the second license. The license that is not transferable is the one that is owned by the single person who, if you look around, they're hiring right now all over the state for hospital administrators is the technical title. So when you receive your hospital administrative license, it's X amount of classes and hours and then pass the exam. And then there's some continuing ed and things like that. That is what the county has no control over at the moment because it's not up for sale. It's not, I don't even know what the sale transaction is going to be with the facility license, let alone we have to have an administrator with a license as well. From what I understand, I don't believe Steve Granzo is interested in taking on that role. He has his hands full with what he's doing. So Steve Granzo is the administrator that's hired by the hospital board.
Oh.
I'm just using it as an example, and
I didn't hear the last name, so I'm gonna...
Yes. So that would be the second license. The third license, if we were to continue to offer home health care, there's a third license for that. And there are quite a few people that hold that license primarily and none other. So I think that would probably be a bit easier of a task to find someone that would want to do that side of it. So that I feel is lesser of a priority. The board that is going to be appointed, which we have not really discussed yet, I think that probably...
Nonprofit
No, the administrative board.
for the department.
Yes. I'm assuming they will meet monthly. They will, in fact, hire the administrator, And then, so, what's it called, the foundation, the hospital foundation? Is there a name, a technical term for that?
There is, I'm sure.
And is the board itself also a nonprofit? No. Okay.
Not that I know.
So I suppose that might be a similar structure. You might not have to have two separate nonprofits, but the funding will have to go to the nonprofit. So that may be a separate board, and you may have some crossover. And I think you told me the hospital does. There's a crossover between the foundation that does the money transactions and the board that meets and makes the decisions about the administration. So that's what we're looking at now.
The hospital foundation is actually a 501c3 where the actual hospital is not, so.
Okay, so I think that's probably, you could probably do it either way, but that structure would probably be what we're headed toward. Having this appointed board, having the foundation that is monetarily responsible for, you know, receiving the funds, et cetera, et cetera. That way, that is all open. It's not a privately run business with a sole proprietor or a corporation that is paying themselves an undisclosed amount of money, and then the county is then subsidizing a dollar amount for
You
the
have to
operation.
go with the nonprofit.
Mhm.
Now, so continue.
No, that's basically my explanation of how I've seen it unfold and where we're going. And you asked about the committee, and I think the committee's job is to iron out those details because, like he said, none of us know. I mean, I know the steps to form the nonprofit, the steps, let's say, but as far as the licensing, KDADS has been very reluctant to be in contact with us, and that's a concern. Kansas Department of Aging and Disability, and they are the ones that issue the license. So if we apply for a new license for the facility, now, but I'm still confused about that, and I think that's what the committee needs to figure out. Can you transfer this facility license from a for-profit corporation to a nonprofit? I'm not sure, probably, but when they did it the last time, it was, he bought her corporation. John Grace bought Kristen Robinson's corporation, so with that sale came the license. Do you see what I'm saying? This isn't the same type of transaction. We're not necessarily buying a corporation.
Okay.
So that license is a primary concern, so is the administrative license, because you cannot operate a nursing home, and I think that was maybe suggested last week, but it's not true. You cannot operate a nursing home without those intact.
Right.
And then the third part of that would be the home health care license, which is separate.
Well, you were the one, you'd heard about John Grace and you contacted him and kind of was the one that brought him in. You guys met with him, did some things, and he's been involved. Full disclosure, we have been friends with John Grace for 4 years. We lived in Topeka. John we first met John in Manhattan, Kansas when he was a young person, 30-something, and he ran the premier nursing center or campus of Kansas, Metal Arch Hills. And I don't know if you've ever been there, but they have single apartments. And they go all the way up to long-term care. And he did a wonderful job. He was a pillar of the community. People loved the job he was doing. He stayed there, and he worked probably 10 or 15 years. During that time, he met my husband, who also worked with aging programs in Riley County. So they became friends, but also business, associates. And John has, in the past 40 years, he's been recognized nationwide for his commitment to aging, the elderly, his innovation, his expertise. You know, go on and on and on. But when John emailed me and said, guess what, I'm going to Lincoln to meet with the county commissioners. I'm like, what? And we were so happy because we knew the situation out here, and for him, we knew about his innovative, the greenhouses and this, that, and the other, and we were so pleased. And we knew John's work history, we knew everything about John, and we knew he would do well in Lincoln County. And so, as we struggle along, John has worked with Smith County. They think he walks on the water. They have their nonprofit up and running. They raised $1 million for their senior programs up there. Yes, they did.
Actually,
Who
they're borrowing somewhere around $7 million.
Of their own.
There's two different $3 million loans. There's also a local loan, and I think the actual amount of donated money is considerably less than $1 million. If you take the grass and grain, there was a write-up in the grass and grain of all the USDA loans that were given out, and there was a write-up on that Smith Center operation. So.
Well, the point is, Yeah, you need to move forward, but I also want to say, Kelly Larson has done a great job in this community trying to bring in economic development. Why would you put at risk 60 employees out of Lincoln Park Manor and a $2 million payroll? Kelly's working, day and night to improve the economics here in this community, and you put those people at risk? People have left out there. Quality nurses have left. My mom was crying because a lot of the nurses have left because they hear the rumors. They hear, people make up rumors about John Grace. I mean, his reputation is at stake here too.
We don't operate that business. John operates that business.
He bought it from Kristen, and you guys should have bought it from Kristen back years ago and handled the whole thing. For $70,000 some dollars, why don't you buy the business? Appoint a nonprofit board. You guys pick the people.
Where did you get $70,000 number at?
Yeah, I'm interested.
That's what John paid for it.
Oh, well, you need to go have a talk with John. We can't discuss the financials that John has discussed with us.
Okay,
But
he's not wanting $400,000.
That was the last
Well,
proposal
yes,
that we
that's the
received.
proposal
The
we
last
got.
proposal
Okay,
that we
well
received.
then, you need to visit with him. I can only tell you what I know and what we paid Kristen.
But I'm just trying to explain business-wise.
I know the
You
whole
don't
thing.
pay for something that's worth nothing. And we had a financial consultant come to the table. We discussed this. You cannot invest money into someone else's debt. I mean, you
Exactly.
don't move into an apartment and pay the last tenant's bills. You
At
pay
one
your own
point,
bills.
You guys owned it and ran the
No,
business.
that has not been true ever.
Kristen bought it from you.
No,
No.
that's not true. The Worths owned it. There was a
Lincoln Park, or Mid-American Nursing Home had
Okay,
it for
I'm-
30 years, 30-some years.
Yeah, Lincoln has never, that's why I said to you when I did my research, Lincoln has not operated it with an appointed board, nor through, I guess was Mid-America a nonprofit? I don't think so. I think they're a for-profit
They were
corporation.
for-profit. They had it, started out with Good Sam, and went to Mid-America, and Mid-America had it for 30-some odd years,
My dad lived there.
So the
but we've
purchase,
never operated.
when Kristen purchased it from the Worths, who owned the Mid-America operation, and when John purchased it from Kristen, that's completely out of our hands. We have no purchasing power. A county commission cannot purchase a business. So if I own a corporation and I sell it to you, nobody else has any say in that. That is a person-to-person private contract there. There's no say. What this board has served as before me and now with me is a landlord. That's different.
Right. I know that.
So if there is to be a transition to an appointed board with nonprofit, et cetera, or even if we were to just find a nonprofit that wanted to come in and we lease to them,
Okay.
that's still a landlord role.
Yeah, I know, I get that. 2 school districts came before you and needed money. They had great needs. I get the Lincoln County paper, they were very appreciative that you gave them some money because of the state funding, that whole thing, I know that whole process. So we've taken care of the youth. Are we gonna take care of the vulnerable elderly in Lincoln County?
That's
Especially the ones at Lincoln Park Manor?
That's our intent, but we're not gonna fund a private business.
Correct. Correct.
Well, then John walks away, and then what?
Then we're gonna operate the nursing home.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're
Is that
throwing
really
the
what you want?
$70,000 number out that we've never heard from John. Trust me, not even close to that. It was in a public meeting several times, it's $450,000.
Well, and that figure, so in my mind, why wouldn't you take let's say it's $75,000, buy John out, appoint a board, and get moving?
I would say John needs to make that proposal, because that's not the proposal that was made to us.
Yeah, this is the first time we're hearing this number, what you're saying.
We need to,
The other
Get
thing
our
you
budget
need to be
here.
aware of is CAN Care and the Medicaid debacle. And because of their IT programs, and they've just appointed the same company to monitor Medicaid and process Medicaid applications, Lincoln Park Manor, they're slow rolling the money. So that's another problem with Lincoln Park Manor. The state is not processing Medicaid and care applications fast enough. And so, there's thousands of dollars out there that they, Lincoln Park Manor needs.
It's been that way for 3 years, ever since they went to the centralized
Yes.
application.
Well, every business has their own accounts payable and their own accounts receivable. So that would really have nothing to do with us.
Oh, yeah, it does.
No,
But
it
we're-
doesn't.
State dollars, yes.
No,
I can tell you.
that's on their accounts receivable. Even if we were to take over, those are past due bills that are still owed to the corporation for which they were billed. You can't come in as a new owner and bill for someone else's accounts receivable. It doesn't work like
I'm not
that.
saying that. I'm just saying you need to monitor, and Susan Buchanan is on a joint committee for Can Care. They met last week, and they voted to renew the contract for those IT people to process Medicare applications. And they have failed miserably.
I've had conversations with both our representatives and our senator, and they're just oblivious to the problem.
Well,
I'm
Susan
telling you,
Buchanan
they just-
serves on that committee. So she has been very active. I contacted her when I heard about all the Medicare stuff. So anyway, thank you for this opportunity. Appreciate your time. I know I ran over.
Thank you for the questions.
If John has a new proposal, we'd like to hear it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you've ever watched any of the videos, but I mean, Terry asked him what the license is worth, and in my personal opinion, I'm not speaking for the board, but in my personal opinion, that's the only sellable item, unless there's some other medical equipment purchases that we can make, etc. But you don't sell debt. That's just, you don't sell debt. And that was what was proposed.
Okay, we'll open the budget hearing now. A few minutes late.
Did anyone else want a copy of the budget? I have some. Anyone else want one?
Oh, yeah, we need this, don't we? Do we just have to sign one, Don?
Yes, or two.
Two.
Two? Is there two there, Terry?
Yes.
They want a copy?
What I'd like to show you is what was given in the Lincoln paper. You read it from there? No.
No.
I can't hardly read it real that close.
I'd stand a better chance of reading it from there than I would up close.
Yeah, that's almost an injustice to the whole system, is to make something so people can't understand what's going on. If you follow across some of the items here over the years, there's very high expenditures for some things. Not to pick on, a cemetery or a rural fire department or ambulance, but you look at some of those expenditures and they've really increased and they've been approved by you as a board.
Which one specifically are you talking about?
Well, get your paper out.
I got it.
Okay, look at the Freemason Cemetery, the first one.
We don't operate that cemetery.
Freemason Cemetery.
We don't operate those cemeteries.
Those budgets are set so that all that money is spent.
You approved this, so
That's right. That's much money available that they can spend. It doesn't mean that they're spending it. It means that we have got to appropriate what money in there to spend it down to zero. It's just like the watershed or anything else.
Don't they have?
You make it come out to zero. Isn't
They-
that right, Don? Kind of.
okay.
They have a board, correct?
Well, just to give you that as an example, in 17, they spent $750. In 18, they spent $1,500. And in 19, they want to spend $2,798. Now,
How much was carryover?
what is happening to our government locally?
Is that just for maintenance, like lowering, or what? I can't read it now.
It's what's happening to our,
I think you need to have that discussion with the board of that cemetery.
They get added onto ours to help save them money, because it costs $56 to advertise their budgets. So they do a combined budget along with Lincoln County, the state allows that to occur, so that it saves them advertising costs in the paper. Because basically, it's like $56 every time somebody publishes that really tiny ad.
I think his question is, are we setting the allowable expenditure
No.
number and are we taxing for that? That's the question, right?
That's where they're saying that they need to talk to the cemetery board.
Yep.
I'm saying the reason why the cemetery board is added onto ours is to help them save money, because if they're levying $700 and $56 of it is going to the newspaper, what is the purpose of that?
They make that decision, we don't. We just advertise it along with our stuff to save them the advertising costs. But as far as the setting of the budget and stuff, they set the budget, we don't.
well, I still say we can pick other items too. But that one, when you go from $750 to $1,500 to almost $3,000, it almost went up 4 times in 3 years. I just want to know what, as a commission board, in all areas are we doing to cut taxes? What have we done to cut taxes? Now I see because of increased evaluation, the total amount of mill levy for the county in 17 was 110. Read this right. Last year in 18 it's 107, and proposed 19 is 102. Now it's true, the mill levy has gone down, but the amount of money, tax dollars, that I pay is going to increase. And I just keep wanting to say that for economic development for Lincoln County, taxes need to decrease. They need to go down and not go up. And I don't see how you're going to get anybody to come in and look at numbers that go up like this and want to jump in and have part of it.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying, because there's a misconception that we can fund economic development. And I forget which president said that, but you can't tax a nation into wealth. So we're funding the concept of economic development, but true economic development means that free commerce has more reign and more liquid assets. So I agree with what you're saying. I think what I don't understand yet, and maybe Dawn you can explain, is, so go back to the cemetery board just for an example, because what you're showing is like a 200% increase, and that's right. Right. So you're, yeah, and I see what you're saying. You just take the percentages. Let's not even talk about the dollar amount. Or when the board sets their budget, is that number showing? Aljo, you asked if that was rollover.
I'll tell you, and
Yeah.
they collected $600 in 17. They are asking for $600 more in 19.
So basically,
The
what
ad valorem
happens-
tax collected in 17 on this year, it says $600. Down here where it says tax required for the 2019 budget, it's $600 again.
Yes, so basically what happens is we send out a treasurer's report, they're supposed to send it back in. And then it tells you what their income and their expenses were for the cemetery. Then I send them out a budget request, trying to help them save dollars. So it used to be that they had to do their budgets on their own and pay for it. Well, then the state allows you to be able to combine it, it's called special districts within the county, to help save some of those districts money, because each of the fire districts would do their own budget, each of the cemetery districts would do their own budget. And I think that occurred when Doors was here. So then I send out a budget request to them, they tell me what they would like to have. If they don't respond, then we just give them the same amount, we levy the same dollar amount that they used the previous year. And that's where how their budgets come about. Now, like Spillman used to have like $80-some thousand, and I would have people come in and ask, why are they budgeting $80,000? Because you have to give them the budget authority to be able to spend what they have in their bank accounts in case there was a catastrophe happened. Let's say a bunch of stones got knocked down.
Okay, so let's stop there.
So that's the expenditure part of it.
So budget authority is the ability to spend everything that you have in reserves and what you're taxing new.
Spillman received like an $80,000 gift.
Yes. So I called, when they got theirs, I called and I said, what am I doing wrong with their budget? Because everybody keeps thinking they're gonna spend $80-some thousand in 1 year. And they told me that because they had a bequest given to them with specific purposes, that I could create a memorial fund in order for that money to be moved out. So that when they do get ready to spend those specific purposes, they can use it for those specific purposes. You know, you can't help it. When people donate money to you, but they put such stringent guidelines on it, you can't help that. So in other words, the expenditures, you budget and give them the authority to spend every last penny that they have. So that is why it says $3,000. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're gonna spend $3,000.
But, okay, I think the disconnect is, it doesn't mean that the new tax is for $3,000.
Correct.
That's the,
Total amount of
That's
money
the
that
total
they
amount
have.
of expenditures, the
That's
total
what
amount
they
of
have.
tax needed.
right. But then, and that leads to the question as to, if they have everything that they taxed for last year, why are they taxing for the same dollar amount again in the following year? There's a discourse there.
But you don't, I'm not familiar with that cemetery, but do they have a fence around it? Do they need to
They
repair
could be
the fence?
right. They
Do
could be planning to make a big purchase,
Yeah.
and so they don't spend any money 1 year, and they tax another
think-
$600 for a third year in a row, but then they spend $1,800 on
I-
their
I
replacement.
think basically
purchase.
all of the cemetery districts are budgeting what they spend to pay for mowers to come in and mow. And they're hoping to gosh that nobody comes in and knocks over those stones. Because if somebody comes in and knocks over those stones, there's no recourse for them. They have to fix them,
Didn't,
or they leave them.
didn't Spillman put in a new fence with part of that money that they were requested? Seemed to me like they were going to or something, but what Don's right, if someone, Delia Pitters, left this county a tremendous amount of money, but it's only good for certain things, and it's only been used once, I think, since I've been here. But we can't change that. We can't change the bequest. So,
Okay, that, it wasn't just one cemetery.
I'll go through them for you. I'll go through for you. Mission Cemetery is the one you questioned. They asked,
I question all four of them.
I'm gonna go through each one of them.
Okay.
They requested $600 in taxes in 2017. They spent $750. Then in 19's budget, they're estimating that they need another $600. Well, they're projecting in 18 that they're going to spend $1,500. So they're going to take down their cash reserves. If I go to Rosette Cemetery,
Excuse me one
they
second.
collected $917 as tax. They spent, that's in 17, they spent $839, so they had a little cash reserve. They're estimating they're going to spend $2,000 in 18, and they're asking for 19, $951, so about $60 increase there, or no, $40 increase in Rosette. In Spillman asked for $2,130. In 17, they spent $3,000. They're estimating to spend $7,000 in 18. And in 19, they're asking for $2,160. So they're asking for $30 more than they did in 17, actually $10 less than in 18. As for 17, they got $1,945. They spent $6,930. In 19, they're asking for $2,000, just like they asked for in 18. And they're estimating to spend $11,000 in expenses in 18, which I don't think they'll spend that much, but they might. If you go to Barnard Rural Fire Department, in 17 they asked for $14,857. They spent,
In 17, that is, the 17 column is what they actually received in
yeah,
taxes.
that's
So
what they
it's not
sent,
what
yeah.
asked for.
And I think they spent $18,299. They're asking this year for $15,511, which is a little bit less, about $80 less than they did ask for in 18. In 17, Lincoln Beverly asked for $31,229. They spent $29,603. In 18, they're asking for, or in 18 and 19, they asked for $31,500. Lincoln First District asked for $61,000. In 17, they got $61,488. They spent $68,928. In 18 and 19, they asked for $62,458, which is a little bit more than they asked for or got in 17. And Hunter Rural Fire District, in 17, they got $33,640. They had total expense of $46,047. And in 18 and 19, they asked for $33,000. Sylvan Grove asked for $28,000, or got $28,009 in 17. They spent $34,610. And in 18 and 19, they asked for $28,500. And that's all of them that I have. So, you know, Howard, you need to look at what the ad valorem tax they got and how much they're requesting. And that tells you whether they're asking for more money. So that's how we figure the tax, is what they ask for.
It's gonna figure up on, I'd almost be for sure that my total tax bill, without adding any property to it, the taxes are gonna, dollar tax is gonna be more this next year than they were last year.
Howard, you pay $2 an acre under grass.
Okay,
In Nebraska, it's $30 an acre.
Like if I pay, if I paid, say, $25,000 tax last year, it's gonna be more this year. Because spending has not decreased on the county level.
And I would ask you if any of your expenses have decreased on your farm in the last year.
The income sure has.
Have the
It's not an
expenses
expense.
have the expenses decreased?
okay, but our
We utilize
expenses.
fuel and equipment and repairs just like you do on the farm.
No, this isn't, you
repairs, I
can't,
know.
but you can't do a comparison from levying money as an income to justify your expenses versus being subject to the market to receive an income to justify
We
your
are
expenses.
subject to the market every day in this, on our expenses at our county. We are subject to the market.
No, you're requesting money from a resource to fund what you plan to spend. That's not how you run a business. You don't request money based on your expenditures. You receive
You
money.
set your prices by what your expenses are in a business.
Actually, in agriculture, you don't get to send your own
Well,
prices.
agriculture is different, but and you set a business. In a business, you guarantee you, if their freight is going up on the goods they're bringing in, they're going to increase the price at the groceries on the shelf, aren't they?
Isn't there?
Because they want to make a profit. And
There-
farmers try every other thing to make a profit. I mean, that's what we're all in for, is profit,
There is
right?
a guarantee there though, isn't there? LDP.
You know, on the soil conservation, the committee came in here and they've been getting $2,000 for 20,000, I guess 20,000 in the last couple of years, and they wanted 22,000. Well, that's a 10% increase just on a small item, and you approved it right away. 10% increase. Good cause, you say. Well, could have gone the other way. Could have said, well, we're gonna make it 18,000. And that'd been a 10% decrease. Maybe that's the direction we should have taken on some of the smaller items.
And who's going to bear the expense of that decrease?
Maybe less hours work we're taking care of with the management. That's what that was for salary, was it not?
I believe so.
Part of it goes for the subsidies on septic systems and stuff like that.
Speaking of that, I do think we need to address something though. We did not receive an ambulance budget. All kinds of budgets were turned in at different times. I think we need to have some sort of expectation, especially from our own departments. Now, I mean, I know we have limited ability to control some of those other things, but I don't have an ambulance budget, Dawn.
We had one.
No, it was given to us when we put the budget together is when we received it. It was not turned in prior. And I'm sorry, I just tried to print, some people had asked for a discussion on the elderly distribution, and I printed out the Lincoln Senior Center budget, I printed out the Council on Aging budget, and I printed out the wrong Sylvan document here. I'm sorry. And I don't have that. I mean, I do, but we received it early. But I think we should suggest a deadline. That way we can have them, because a lot of other counties publish their intentions before they do their budget. I don't know what I did with that. Do you have the Sylvan Senior Center budget request? Thank you. How did I miss that?
I want that back.
Colorful. I don't know what I did with it.
Well, no, that wasn't pictures or something. I just looked at it for a bit. Too many papers.
John, I have a question about the ambulance billing line item there. Did we thoroughly discuss what our expectations for income are going to be, or is that some kind of figure that we've already definitely manipulated? I'm going to find it.
For the ambulance fees?
Yes,
Was it?
yes.
Yes, we discussed that in the auditors.
Where am I? Ambulance. Okay, receipts. Reimbursement.
I think we left this year out at 100,000 or 75, and reduced next year's to 75. Because he had in the draft.
Okay, so we reduced, so we had 100,
I have the drafts for
is it under the line item called runs?
ambulance fees, it should say.
Mine says runs, I think.
Yep.
Isn't that the income, the runs? Yeah,
No, I think it's under.
the other one. I'll be right back. I want to get a copy of this. I made the wrong copy.
Yeah, it's under ambulance runs.
Printed that, four. Yeah.
Is that under runs?
Yeah.
Because in the draft, he had 100,000 in the center column and zero in 2019.
Right, but my worry was, what are we actually going to collect for 18? Because if we leave it at 100,000,
I think we're gonna get there.
okay.
I can tell you where we're at.
Yes, please. I thought we should at least rediscuss that.
We can't change it anyway, we can only lower it.
We can only.
Right, but 100, I'm saying if 100 is too high, we should be lowering it.
We
If we
can't.
don't
Well,
expect
No,
to.
no,
If
no,
we
no.
lower that one, it's gonna
We can't.
It's
go
gonna
up.
increase the
We can't
revenue.
lower.
gonna
We
increase.
can't lower income. We can only lower expenses.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if we're not gonna get 100, to compensate for that, we should be lowering the 75
But if
column.
you lower it, it increases the taxes.
Yeah.
On the
Because you're,
75,000 that we're
Yes.
projecting
Yes,
for you?
yes.
Oh, it's income, it's
It's
income.
income,
I'm
yeah.
thinking backwards.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm sorry. I'm
You
sorry.
can lower the
Yeah,
expense.
you
I'm
can
sorry,
lower
I'm
the
looking at
expense,
it
but you
backwards.
cannot do anything.
Well, that was my concern. Are we going to reach the projected income?
I think we are.
Okay.
Now, let me tell you where we're at. Okay, we are at $39,438.
Thank you.
And I know that I sent over, and that is through, okay, so the last update was August 20th, so for the ambulance fund.
Okay.
And with that, we have $39,438 collected, and I know I took over receipts for over 6,000 just on Friday.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I think we're gonna be okay.
And what was our total current in capital outlay? Did we use any of that for the payment, for any payments on the new ambulance, or did we pay 100% of that from the capital improvement?
You paid 10,000 out of the ambulance capital outlay fund, so the current balance is 68.
68, and then we're budgeting 25.
I believe so. And that will only occur if you get the income that you
Right. So that could be, I guess, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Where is that manipulation if that income doesn't reach 100? So we have 25,000 in the
Quick
capital.
transfer.
Mhm. Okay, that was one of my concerns. We had a brief conversation during the recess about the 75,000 that we've allocated for the mill levy for elderly services, and I just pulled up the budgets from the three entities so that we can look at that. What the total is there.
Considerably more than the 75.
Right. So, Lincoln Senior Center has a budget request of $48,220. And that's up from 2018 at $35,961. I guess they just increased everything a bit. For $3,200 in wages. A little more in repairs. City of Lincoln expense is up a little. Okay, and then we have Sylvan Senior Center at okay, I have Sylvan Senior Center at $24,132. But does that include this year somewhere? Did we talk about that, or that's not including the back payment from this year?
That's 2019 budget.
Okay. 24,132. Oops. Okay, so that brings us to 72,352 with both senior centers. And the Council on Aging has a 2019 budget request for $55,634, which is up 3,000 from last year, a little less than. So that's $127,986 in requests from the mill levy that was set at 75. So equals. So it's a little less than 50%. So do you have any thoughts on going across the board with a percentage? Doing distributions based on knowing that you had given instructions to the Council on Aging to keep 50% of their budget in tow, so that would be 50% of their 2018 budget. That was the last thing you had said to them. 52,834 divided by 2, $26,417 would be the dollar amount in their savings account if they had 50% of their budget saved. And I think we were just told by member it was about, what, 60-some thousand?
I think all three entities are gonna be disappointed in what they get, if they're expecting us to fund the full amount of those budgets. We obviously have no intention of funding the full amount of those budgets, or we wouldn't have set the amount we're levying at $75,000.
Here's my question, though. If it's a publicly instituted mill, and so, for example, this year we have the 28,500 left. Don, we can't particularly use that for anything else because it was levied specifically under a public vote to go to.
As long as it's services for the elderly.
Right, but I'm saying we can't put it into our own capital improvement or do anything like that with
We
it.
could utilize it on the nursing home or something like that, though. You could justify that as being services for the elderly. So there's multiple things the money could be used for, but there obviously is not enough to go around. So.
No, I agree with that, but I think that's why we need to have the discussion, at least what the intention is. I was just doing some numbers. We approved $75,000 for 2018. Gave $42,500 of it to the LCCA, who in turn gave $17,556 to the Lincoln Senior Center, which left them $19,944 from the first distribution. And then so the second distribution is that $28,500 that we talked about distributing after the audit report. But I guess what I'm saying is if we know that there is approximately $60,000 in the bank for the LCCA going into the next year, I mean, I don't know what their expenses will be for this last quarter, but
I think as
You know,
we
are
get
you-
closer to the end of the year, that's something that we'll have to take into account as the amount of money that's carried over.
oh, I'm just asking, are we still sticking to the precept that we acknowledge they should keep 50% of their budget in reserves, which is $26,000, which is a third of what's potentially there, versus funding their next year's budget for them when they haven't spent that 2/3 towards their own operation.
I think that's what we told them last year, was that we wanted that spent down, so. I would entertain a motion to approve and certify.
Yes, you may.
The reason we came is we were just wondering what we can expect. At this point in time, we have not received a single cent mail levy.
Because you submitted in writing that you would not accept any.
And we requested that it would come from the commissioner.
And we haven't had a chance to review the audits.
Okay, so we're wondering, how much we have to fundraise to go forward with what we're doing.
I would
At
say,
this point in time, I've got 80-year-old and 90-year-old people are fundraising to get money to keep our doors open. And if we're willing to do that if that's what it's going to take. But, they're looking forward to next year. We were wondering where we stand.
well, I think Mr. Wallace said that after we review the audits, we will decide how to distribute the money.
Our audit has been done since May,
Well,
end of May.
The-
And it's not our fault that they haven't taken care of their part of the audit.
it's the auditors, it's not them. The auditors have a review board. which I'd never heard of before, but I asked our auditor when he was here, and he goes, yeah, it has to go through a review board when it's completed. That was the holdup, was getting it through the review board at the auditing firm. So,
I'm just asking, because, you know, we want to know where we stand. Because
well, I think we
we're
discussed,
struggling
I
to
think
try
we
to
talked
meet
about
our-
that earlier, Shirley, and Mr. Wallace stated that after we reviewed the audits, then we would make that decision.
I have a suggestion. If you or someone can attend the Council on Aging meeting tomorrow, when and if they distribute or, you know, give out the audit report, in case we are not to receive it the following Monday, you could bring it to us.
We will have it, I'll be there, so we'll have it.
Okay. Jerry says he'll get it tomorrow.
I would entertain a motion to approve the
I would move we approve
spend
the 2019 budget, or 2019 budget as presented.
I will second. Is there any further discussion?
Did we have any more questions? We didn't ask for questions.
Not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Did you vote aye?
Nay.
There's no further business, we'll adjourn the
I
meeting
do have
until.
two things.
Okay.
Some old business that we hadn't taken care of. Dawn, we had talked to Delisa's about giving us updates. I don't know, is she printing out some kind of report, or is she just still trying to get organized?
I got a couple of things and, okay, each month she's been sending me something. The first month wasn't very much because it wasn't, and then apparently I didn't realize that when she sends me an email, it's like on the file share server thing, and the email feeds out to the file share. So she sent me some more. My problem is she's providing patient names. So, I think I asked you guys what you were wanting to see, but I don't know, I don't remember if you guys ever really.
I think
answered
it'd
me.
just be nice to see a dollar amount, maybe, just to see, like you said, you just sent in a bill for 6,000. So it might be nice to hear back of that 6,000, what are we getting?
Okay.
You know?
I don't think we want to see names.
No, not that.
She sent me like 4 different reports, and I'll be honest with you, I saved it with my computer this last time, but I don't think I've gotten anything for the month of July, so we're trying to balance out the month of July. And maybe it was the month of July, but I'll see what the 4 different reports really actually are, and then see if I can maybe truncate it out, just to make it more.
Okay. And then another thing, I had a request, a phone call. We had received a letter on May 21st from Mary Powell, and she sent it here to the commission, and she had some requests about answers on road maintenance in her area, and she says that the road department has never responded since May 21st. And being that I brought up several times that we have no logging system for these types of issues and, you know, response, I think we need to follow up. So I don't know what you want to do about this, but it is in my district, so I suppose that's why I received the phone call. But this is the letter that we received in the commission meeting June, July, August, 3 months ago. I feel like that's pretty sad turnaround time, at least to get a response. She said there was no response, not that the work hasn't been done.
I think she's wanting a response from you guys.
Well, it says to the commissioners, yeah. I mean, we told the highway department that day that this, you know, and There's been they haven't gotten to us, they haven't gotten back to her. This is exactly the kind of communication error that I've been addressing. So it basically talks about street signs at the corner of 181 and Union, 80th and Vine, and then the bridges that are located on 80th north of Ash Grove.
I'm gonna defend the highway department just a minute. She came in after they had already left that day and left that letter, and I'm not sure you guys have ever given them that letter. It's potential that you did, but I know you didn't that day.
Well, we definitely discussed it because I talked about the signs on 181. We were doing, I talked about doing signs all the way down Union and making sure the ones are on a lot of these cross-section roads because, I mean, Michael got us a bid and got some signs up there on the lake roads. We did that. And then we talked about doing, I don't know if they're done, was it 14 we talked about?
18's done, they're doing 14 now, I think. I think 181 was next.
Separate from the state program though?
Yes.
Okay, so.
These are just road
Because
signs.
these were the road name signs.
Yeah.
Yeah, for our roads off of the state intersections. So.
I'm not sure that, I've never provided them a copy of that letter, so unless one of you guys gave them your letter.
I don't know that we gave them a letter. I think we discussed it because I remember talking about the sign project, saying these more traveled roads like Union could use intersection signs. Vesper Road could use intersection signs. Even on 6th, which is south of Sylvan, all those signs are deteriorated too. But we haven't received any bids or anything. So do you want a copy of this to send to them or?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
I like that too.
I think that's all I have. And then how will you
And then are you wanting them to respond or are you?
Well, I think they need to come to us with what their plan is to address that.
Okay, so I'll ask them to respond to those.
Okay, we'll adjourn until Friday morning at 8 o'clock.
The only reason why you know that I didn't give it to them is because she come in and asked about it, and I told him, I said, I know that I didn't give it.
But yeah, I don't think I handed them my copy. I don't know if she left a copy for them or not, but
I don't know. And I know she came in after, so.
do you want these extra budgets? Or, I don't know, I guess they'll just,
I'll just,
do you have them out in the court or in the office to
yeah, they're.
give away or?
But if we don't have them, I'll give them to the department. Of course, I
Okay.
guess you guys can give them to the department.
Yeah, they had copies
Um,
the meeting.
Howard, I had your minutes, so you know. Like I do with them.
Okay, thank you.
Take care, Wilson.